access to an FBI background check system that all law enforcement agencies will utilize. So the long and the short of it is that technically they're not sharing it, but the FBI has access to it.
Thank you, Mr. Bello. The reason, when I said advise, it wasn't to advise people that are in that situation. It's more that people were asking us about, people were basically claiming that Bridgeport and the county were actually actively engaged because there had to have been a phone call made when someone gets arrested, and I didn't know how to respond to that.
Yeah, and
not to say that we have the answer, I just want to make sure that that's clear, I guess, and what that process looks like, well, who's making what phone calls when, and why people are showing up people's doors if there's an arrest made. If you're saying that originally, if you're claiming that someone gets arrested, it goes into a federal database of sorts, then we can confidently say we're not making those phone calls and we're not putting people in danger. Right, it's just automatically happening. I just wanted to have that clarity personally because we're dealing with this on a day-in, day-out basis.
And it really, as the chief intoned, the "I believe" statement indicates that our police are not only not cooperating, but they're not informed of what's happening. Yeah, and that's a danger with any agency from the federal government, whatever it is, if they're not communicating with local officials and local police especially, which they're not doing, then, the thing I love about having local police is I mentioned a family in general, just in general, to our office, to Chief Beretta, and he knew where they lived, and that's what you get with local community police, and they're not engaging in that level, and that puts, whatever it is, can be scary for residents. And so the lack of communication means that he was out on that Friday calling school districts, calling neighbors, going to a lot of efforts while he's on the phone with me. So, that you can be assured that there's not been any coordination, and that what Chief Beretta said is, working within the bounds of the law with warrants, et cetera.
Yeah, and to the point, the federal government is a separate entity and they can do what they can do. The counties are not communicating either. And like I always say, is that people can disagree on a philosophical level, on a legal level, but when there's a void of information, the communication we were just talking about earlier about committees, commissions, and having discussions, the most important thing is to have a greater level of communication. You can't show your displeasure unless you're communicating in a certain way. And so, like I said before, I reached out to immigration the end of that long Friday and wanted to know a little bit of information. And again, not to tell them what to do because that's their job. They have their abilities to do their job. But I want to make it safer on the ground for our people. And there's ways that we can all, or groups of people can raise their concerns in the legal, lawful ways, so that it might change the scope of actions of the federal government, just like scopes of the borough government or county government. I wish that there was a communication level between the county level and the federal government so that maybe people could disagree, but they could have a level of communication so that maybe there could be the slightest amount of moderate trust so that the government can function. That would be my goal and will be my goal, is to try to get some sort of level of communication to keep it safer in the streets of Bridgeport. I can't control all these other streets. We have Bridgeport, we take care of our own, and how can we best take care of our own? A unique approach of listening and hearing without a guarantee of agreement, and a peaceable approach to coexistence. We all come from different places, countries, religions, and social backgrounds, all bringing us here today. And, we are a remarkable place, but to stay remarkable or to become better, we've got to communicate. So that's the hope. So whether it's federal government to local government to county government, so that we can do the course of the people's business and keep people as safe as humanly possible. That's my goal. And then as an offshoot, I'll be able to update council with anything else that I've found from some of the families.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, we can move on to new business. Are there any items of new business? Can we just wait for public comment really quick? I'm sorry, just went through it. New business? Sorry, did someone say something? Okay. We'll move on to open forum and announcements. Do you have any announcements this evening? All right, we can, no, I'm sorry, move on to public comment. You're welcome.
Just a question, Chief. From a legal standpoint, I'm a business owner here in Bridgeport. I'm also an immigrant who was super scared because, of course, they were parked directly in front of my building. But there's a lot of misinformation going around. What happens if they come into the bakery? What do we call the police? Do we call our local police? Of course, I have all of my paperwork, so I did bring all of that up front. But because they're not taking the necessarily the legal way of doing things, what happens at that point? As a resident, do we call our local police office?
Here's what I suggest. If we have something that you see might be an active police scene, could be unmarked cars, could be people in uniform and unmarked cars, like kind of like my CRV I drive around, whatever, and you see something you think it might be a police thing, don't try to penetrate perimeter. Keep some distance, try to get people to identify themselves. If they are, call the police. Part of the reason why I want to have greater level of communications is because I want to make sure that if something is not a crime and it's a federal operation that some people could not like, I might not like, whatever, that at least we know what it is we're dealing with. So if there's something that makes somebody or they're concerned, call. We can check it out, and we can go there, and hopefully we can engage with another officer from whatever jurisdiction. Because sometimes we get calls. Had gotten some calls on ICE, and they were county sheriffs serving county warrants, like the sheriff's office do it, but they drive unmarked vehicles too, and then they have partial uniforms. But my suggestion is that, if you have documents, that you keep them. You can speak for yourself. Whether they have judicial warrants or non-judicial warrants, that's a whole other thing about the requirements in federal, and that's in the courts right now, of whether or not the requirements to have a judicial warrant. Like when I go get a warrant for somebody for a felony, as opposed to a warrantless arrest, which is able to be done in state court like Pennsylvania for like DUI, because they recognize that not everything can be a judicial warrant. It might have to be a warrantless arrest. But keep your documents and be able to speak for yourself. I understand the fear and concern. That's why I'm here speaking about it tonight. That's why I wrote that, not because it's easy. It's difficult. The problem is that people aren't having difficult conversations. They're shutting down. We can't be part of that. We have to speak. We have to talk with each other. So I hope that's helpful. If you have anything specific or see something, just call. Our guys will come up, and at least we can have a discussion and find out what's going on. And that's what we'll do.
And June, I just want to add to what the chief said. If you ever have any other legal concerns or other pressing things, you can always reach out to me. The chief and I will talk about it. If you have something for whatever reason you don't want to tell me or don't want to tell the chief, we can always respect privacy as well. Yeah. So reach out anytime if you have an individual concern. If there's an avenue we need to pursue, we'll help you out with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just more so wanted to know what is the legal standpoint on them coming into the bakery, requesting documents. Obviously, I'm not a combative person, so I would easily present them with the documents that they're requesting. However, I just wanted to know legally, like I said, there's a lot of misinformation about how they're going about this, what happens when they enter. I just wanted to know, is it okay to say, I'm going to call my local police? That's all. But thank you.
I think the answer to a lot of these things are going to be, posted in connections to different websites. I can talk to the solicitor all the time. I could keep them busy all of the time. But the point is, if you're open for the public, a person may come in. If they have a valid reason to be there, they're going to have to tell you why. They're going to have to give you credentials. They're going to have to give you a name and say that they're there on official business as opposed to that. If it's in a private residence, they may not, a person may not have cause to be able to penetrate the exterior, but that's on a case-by-case basis, and it depends on the warrant, the authority of the officer, whether it's a federal officer, a local, or a state officer. There are certain times, or believe it or not, where we can't if we don't have a warrant. There's certain other times, this goes way down the rabbit hole, but if we have a warrant for someone's arrest that has the same address on it, then we can go. So I can't give you all the answers to The answer's for all the federal government and what they're going to do or not going to do, but I would just say, if there's something to define whether or not it's a valid law enforcement operation, just call and we can get to the bottom of that.
All right, well, thank you. Does any other individuals from the public wish to comment this evening? All right, we can certainly entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Thanks for coming out this evening. We are adjourned.